You're watching Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani. Today we shall take a look into iPad's two new products simultaneously launched. That is the new iPad Air 2019 as well as the iPad Mini 2019. For me, if you're in the market to buy a new computer, better take a step back and try to see if iPad Air 2019 actually fits your needs, because it fits mine. Here are three things what I like about the new iPad Air 2019. Number one, it is Apple Pencil Generation 1 supported. Number two, it comes with a smart cover and it comes with its own keyboard. This is critical for you if you want to actually try to not go for a laptop but instead go for an iPad. And number three, it's actually quite comfortably priced if you're in the market to buy an iPad Pro but not necessarily ready to part with that much money. The iPad Air could be your answer. So those are the three reasons what I like about the iPad Air. The three reasons what I don't like about the iPad Air, of course, the top reason is that it doesn't function like a computer does. You still have to suit your needs, try to move about your apps according to how an iPad functions as well as how an iOS functions, and therefore it's no replacement for a computer. But the second thing that I don't like about the iPad Air is, of course, the inability for it to actually function fully like a phone either. Largely because you can do a lot more with your phone, or an iPhone, or any phone for that matter. Taking screenshots, immediately sending it out on WhatsApp, because we use WhatsApp a lot these days. There's nothing there, and it's probably never going to change unless, for instance, WhatsApp themselves change how they do their thing. But until now, there's always a third-party app for, say, for instance, WhatsApp on Messenger or something like that, or something, a third-party app that can actually function on an iPad. It's not really the same thing. The third thing what I don't like about the iPad Air is, of course, it doesn't feel as light as it should. It's actually quite thin, it's actually quite comfortable, it's comfortable for you to bring about, but it's not really that thin. Now, of course, that's really a minor complaint, but the larger idea here is that would I make a way, or would I not pursue buying a computer and try to live on the iPad and try to see if it actually replaces my computer? The answer is actually yes. So what I do right now on the iPad is basically a lot of productivity, not so much gaming, but a lot of productivity. Answering emails, trying to craft long essays, even write a book, try to take a lot of notes. So the note-taking apps are plenty. Some of them are actually quite interesting, including that of Moleskine, for instance, Good Script as well. So many other good note apps out there. Many of them are actually quite fun to play with. And of course, because of the fact that the new iPad Air is actually supporting this new Apple Pencil, well, it's not new, but basically it supports Apple Pencil, you can actually try to replicate all the note-taking processes that you want on a book or a notepad, but you can actually do it now on an iPad. So that's extremely critical for me. That is why I want to go for an iPad instead of computer these days. Number one, because it can work like any other notebook, and number two, it can actually replace the paper trails that I normally leave behind. And because of that, I want to focus on how the iPad Air is actually quite comfortably placed. Because of the fact that it's not as pricey as an iPad Pro, and of course, I don't really need an iPad Pro. I'm not an illustrator. If you are an illustrator, perhaps your arguments will be slightly different from mine. But if you're like the majority of us, you just want to get things done on your computer, you can actually get it done on the iPad. Most importantly, all my productivity needs, including answering emails, writing stuff, taking notes, sharing ideas, that includes photos, taking snapshots of stuff, annotate PDFs, those kind of stuff can easily be done on the iPad. Now, I did say that I didn't use it for gaming, but I do, maybe not a lot, but I still play some games, including Pro Evolution Soccer, including some board games like chess, Sudoku, you name it. All of them function as neatly as it should on an iPad. This hasn't changed as much. So at least, if anything, all hell breaks loose, and I want to just sit at the corner for a few hours and play my game. That can easily and comfortably be done with the iPad Air. On battery, don't believe all the things that have been published, particularly by Apple in terms of battery life. It doesn't really last that long. For me, it lasted about 7 hours on heavy gaming and also some productivity work. But I guess it did, or the usage of it would probably vary user to user. So you might want to bring your charger along for that. But enough of the iPad Air, let's focus a little bit more on the iPad mini. Form factor, the iPad mini doesn't change as much from the previous generations, but of course the iPad mini focuses on one important and excellent thing. It is now Apple Pencil supported. Again, this is a critical thing for an iPad to do, for it to be able to be used like a notepad, just like my show, for instance. And the idea here is that the iPad mini actually focuses on the A5 form factor design of a piece of paper. And everything you want and everything you need out of an iPad can be found in the iPad mini. If you want the cheapest iPad around, running the fastest chip, it is an A12 Bionic A chip. If you want something fast for your computer, if you want something cheap, if you want something small and compact, the iPad mini is for you. It perhaps functions a little bit better than most of the notepads out there, including some from Apple's competitors. But the most important thing here is that it falls within the iOS ambit and the iOS orbit. So if you buy something on your phone from the App Store and you want to share it with your family, perhaps you want to share a few games with your kids, you can actually do that because it runs on iOS. That is the critical pull of the iPad mini. The fact that it runs iOS and the fact that it shares the same Apple Store and App Store right now with your other iOS devices. So on the apps that are running on Apple iPads, including that of the iPad Air and iPad mini, millions of which are currently in production and in service and can actually use. But of course, you guys know which apps are better than most. You guys can basically tell us what you think would be such a good idea to be used on an iPad Air or an iPad mini. That's it from me for this particular episode. Remember to drop your ideas in the comments below. Just head on to Astro AWANI, find Notepad as well to look for some of the key interviews there that we have as well. For me, I'm going to be using the iPad Air for quite a bit, and I'm going to be making sure that if there's any complaints, you'll be the first to know. Until next time.